Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Tyler Brennan woke up that Thursday in June with a tightness in his chest he couldn't explain. At 44 years old, owner of a thriving auto repair shop in the heart of Austin, Texas, he'd always been a man of instincts. He could tell when an engine was about to fail before the diagnostics even ran, and he knew when a customer was lying about what they'd done to their car. And right then, looking at Vanessa still asleep beside him, he knew something was deeply wrong. Married for 18 years, they'd built a life Tyler considered solid: 2 kids, 15-year-old Jake and 12-year-old Mia, a comfortable house in a quiet suburb, financial stability. Vanessa worked as a sales manager at a luxury car dealership and had always been ambitious, driven, someone who knew exactly what she wanted. Maybe that was precisely what Tyler should have noticed sooner. 3 weeks earlier, during an ordinary Tuesday dinner, Vanessa brought up an idea that sounded strange from the very first moment. She said she'd read about it in relationship magazines, modern couples doing this to strengthen their bond, about how important it was for each person to have their own space. The proposal was simple yet unsettling: a week of freedom. 7 days during which each of them could do whatever they wanted, no questions asked, no judgments, just a temporary break from marital obligations to recharge and come back stronger. Tyler frowned, suspicious. Vanessa argued it wasn't cheating, it wasn't separation, it was just an experiment, something marriage therapists were recommending for long-term relationships stuck in a rut. She used words like autonomy, emotional maturity, mutual trust. Tyler listened with growing discomfort, but Vanessa was persistent. They argued for days. She accused Tyler of being insecure, controlling, incapable of trusting her. He tried to argue that marriage wasn't about living like single people for 1 week a year, but Vanessa shot back that he was stuck in outdated ideas. Exhausted from the arguing, feeling pressured and doubting himself, Tyler gave in. Maybe she was right. Maybe he really was too insecure. Maybe this could even work. But then Vanessa started marking dates on the calendar, and Tyler realized she'd chosen with surgical precision the week Jake and Mia would be away at summer camp. No responsibilities with the kids, no household distractions, no family commitments. Total freedom. Her excitement as she circled those 7 days in red on the kitchen calendar made Tyler's stomach churn. He tried to ignore it, but he couldn't. In the days that followed, Vanessa was different, more animated, more attentive to her appearance, constantly smiling at her phone. She bought new clothes, lingerie Tyler had never seen, booked manicures, pedicures, waxing appointments. When he commented that she was going all out, Vanessa just shrugged and said it was self-care, that he should try it too. Tyler wasn't taking care of himself. He was watching the woman he'd spent nearly 2 decades with prepare for something he didn't fully understand yet, but already knew would hurt. The week of freedom was set to begin on a Monday. The kids had left for camp the previous Friday, with tight hugs and promises to call. Tyler arranged a technical visit with a parts supplier in Dallas that would last a few days, a believable excuse to leave home. Vanessa seemed relieved when he told her. On Sunday night, he packed his bag and left the house, watching Vanessa wave from the doorway with a smile he no longer recognized. Tyler drove toward Dallas, or at least that's what she thought. In reality, he stopped at a hotel 15 minutes from home, checked in with cash, and sat in his room staring at the ceiling, trying to convince himself he was being paranoid, ridiculous, as insecure as Vanessa had claimed. But the unease wouldn't go away. Around 10 o'clock Monday night, Tyler couldn't take it anymore. He got in his car, drove to his own house, and parked 2 blocks away. The house was dark except for the bedroom light upstairs. Vanessa's car was in the garage. He waited 10 minutes, then 15, trying to talk himself into leaving, but then he saw a second car pull up on the street, a black sedan he recognized. It was Blake Morrison's car, 38 years old, Vanessa's boss at the dealership, a married man with 2 young daughters. Tyler felt his blood run cold and boil at the same time. He got out of the car, walked along the side of the house, and let himself in through the back door using the spare key he kept under the potted plant. The living room was empty and silent, but he could hear sounds coming from upstairs, muffled laughter, voices, the creak of furniture. Tyler climbed the stairs slowly, each step deepening his certainty about what he'd find. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, soft light spilling into the hallway. He pushed it open all the way and saw them. Vanessa was in bed with Blake Morrison, both naked, wrapped in sheets Tyler himself had bought just 3 months earlier. For a second, no one moved. Then Tyler flipped on the overhead light, the sudden brightness flooding the room and freezing them both in place. Tyler's voice came out calm, almost unnervingly controlled. "So this is what you meant by week of freedom? Freedom to fuck up my marriage?" Vanessa turned pale, trying to cover herself with the sheet, eyes wide with panic. Blake Morrison, naked and pathetic, scrambled to grab his pants, stammering something unintelligible. Tyler pulled out his phone and, with deliberate movements, took 3 photos of them. The flash lit up the room 3 times. Blake immediately fell apart. "Tyler, wait, it's not what it looks like, I can explain, please don't do this." Tyler laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Not what it looks like? You're naked in my bed, Blake. With my wife. Which part isn't what it looks like?" He turned to Vanessa, who finally tried to speak, her voice trembling. "Tyler, I can explain, it was just a fantasy, it doesn't mean anything, I still love you, I swear." Tyler shook his head, eyes cold and distant. "You planned this. You sold me that ridiculous, week of freedom, idea just to have an excuse. 18 years, Vanessa. 18 years to find out I married a liar." He looked at Blake, who was now putting his shirt on inside out, shaking. "Your wife Sarah is going to love hearing how you spend your Monday nights." Blake grew even more desperate, stepping forward with outstretched hands. "Tyler, please, I have little girls, don't do this, I beg you, it was a mistake, it'll never happen again." Tyler took a step back, disgusted. "You should have thought of that before stripping down in your employee's husband's bedroom." Tyler walked downstairs, hearing Vanessa running after him, still wrapped in the sheet, begging, crying, saying it was only once, that she didn't know what she was doing, that the week of freedom idea came from her friends, that she'd made a terrible mistake. Tyler stopped in the living room and turned to face her. "Only once? You staged this whole week of freedom theater, sent the kids to camp, bought new clothes, planned every detail, and you expect me to believe it was some spontaneous mistake?" Vanessa had no answer. Tyler grabbed his car keys. "I'm staying at a hotel. When I come back tomorrow, I want you gone." Vanessa tried to grab his arm. "Tyler, don't do this, think of the kids, think of us, we can fix this, we can go to therapy." Tyler gently but firmly pulled his arm away. "Think of the kids? Did you think of them when you brought your boss into our bed?" "No, Vanessa. It's over." Tyler drove back to the hotel but didn't sleep. At 6 a.m. Tuesday, he called Martin Cross, a divorce attorney who handled some of his shop's clients. Martin answered groggily but snapped to attention when Tyler explained what happened. They agreed to meet at 8. Tyler arrived at the office with the photos, screenshots of messages he'd pulled from Vanessa's phone while she cried in the living room the night before, along with dates and times, everything. Martin reviewed the material and nodded gravely. "You've got a solid case. Proven adultery, clear premeditation. We'll start today." At 10 that morning, Tyler returned home. Vanessa was sitting in the kitchen, eyes swollen, repeatedly trying to call him. When Tyler walked in, she stood up, desperate. "Tyler, I need to explain properly, please, just listen to me." Tyler placed an envelope on the table. "Divorce papers. You'll get the official summons in a few hours. You have 24 hours to get out of this house." Vanessa stared at the envelope like it was a venomous snake. "You can't do this, the house is ours, the marriage is ours. Tyler sat down, eyes tired but resolute. It was ours. You destroyed it. And I'm not staying here pretending it can be fixed. While Vanessa tried to process what was happening, Tyler opened his laptop, which was sitting on the kitchen counter. He still had access to her email, they'd shared it for transparency, he thought bitterly. He sifted through her messages and found months of exchanges between Vanessa and Blake, detailed planning of the Week of Freedom, discussions about hotels, jokes about Tyler being naive enough to buy into the charade. He also found reservations Vanessa had made for the following days, a romantic resort 2 hours from Austin, spa included, suite with a view, all paid for with their joint credit card. Tyler saved everything, forwarded it to Martin, and then did something he knew would blow everything wide open. He sent the photos and the most explicit messages to Sarah Morrison, Blake's wife. Sarah was a graphic designer who worked from home and had an active social media presence. Tyler didn't know her personally, but he found her contact through Facebook. He sent everything via private message with a simple note: "Sarah, I'm sorry you have to find out this way, but your husband has been having an affair with my wife for months. Here's the proof. You deserve the truth." Sarah's reply came 15 minutes later. She thanked him, said she'd already suspected something, and that she'd handle it. Tyler didn't expect what happened next. Furious and humiliated, Sarah decided that if Blake was going to destroy her marriage, he'd pay publicly. That same afternoon, she posted a devastating statement on social media, the photos Tyler had sent, faces partially blurred but still recognizable to anyone who knew them, a cold description of the affair, and direct tags of the luxury car dealership where they both worked. The post went viral within hours. Friends, acquaintances, dealership customers, all saw it. The dealership's general manager, pressured by the negative backlash and the company's internal ethics policy, fired Blake Morrison for inappropriate conduct and violation of the hierarchical relationship clause in his contract. In less than 24 hours, Blake lost his job, his marriage, and his reputation. Vanessa wasn't fired. Technically, she could be considered a victim of superior harassment, though the messages clearly showed her active complicity and joint planning. But the damage was done. Coworkers avoided her, clients asked to be served by other salespeople, and whispers followed Vanessa down every hallway. She became known as the woman who slept with her married boss and destroyed 2 families. Tyler, meanwhile, focused on protecting the kids. Jake and Mia returned from camp on Friday, sun-kissed and full of stories. Tyler picked them up alone. On the drive home, he pulled into an empty parking lot and told them the truth. He spared them the sordid details but was honest. Mom and Dad were getting divorced because Mom broke their trust, and things couldn't go back to how they were. Jake, 15, sat in silence for a long minute, then cursed and slammed his hand on the dashboard. Mia, 12, started crying. Tyler hugged them both and let them fall apart. He told them none of this was their fault, that he was there for them, and that they'd be okay. When they got home, Vanessa was still there. She hadn't left as Tyler had asked. When she saw the kids, she tried to hug them, but Jake pulled away. "Is it true? Did you cheat on Dad?" Vanessa looked at Tyler, then at her children, and tried to explain that things were complicated, that adults make mistakes, that she still loved them all. Mia asked in a small, broken voice, "Don't you love us enough not to do this?" Vanessa had no answer. Jake stormed upstairs and slammed his bedroom door. Mia followed. Vanessa collapsed in tears in the living room, but Tyler had no compassion left to give. He said coldly, "You have until Sunday to leave. I won't ask again." The divorce process was brutal for Vanessa. Tyler's attorney, Martin Cross, built an airtight case, proven adultery, documented premeditation, misuse of marital assets to fund the affair, and psychological impact on the children. Tyler sought primary custody, arguing that Vanessa had demonstrated a lack of character and poor judgment. Vanessa hired a lawyer, but her defense was weak. She tried to claim the marriage had deteriorated, that Tyler had been emotionally absent, that she'd felt neglected. The judge listened to it all, read the messages, saw the photos, and wasn't impressed. During one particularly tense hearing, Jake asked to speak. At 15, he had the right to express his custody preference. Jake spoke firmly, "She lied to us too. Said she needed a week of freedom to find herself, but all she wanted was to cheat on my dad. I don't want to live with her. I don't trust her anymore." Mia, younger but tearful, said she wanted to stay with her father. The judge, a man in his 60s with decades of experience, looked at Vanessa with something between pity and disapproval. In the final ruling months later, the judge was blunt. "Mrs. Brennan, you had the audacity to create an elaborate scheme, selling your husband on the idea of a week of freedom, supposedly a modern therapeutic practice, when in reality it was nothing more than a cover to betray your marriage without guilt. You manipulated, lied, and when confronted, you kept lying. This isn't a mistake. It's a pattern of dishonesty." He granted primary custody to Tyler, allowing Vanessa only bi-weekly supervised visits at first, given the children's clear resistance to seeing her. The house, which Tyler had paid 70% of over the years, stayed with him. Vanessa received a share of the assets, but significantly less than she would have in an amicable split. The judge concluded with cold irony, "You planned a week of freedom, Mrs. Brennan. I'll grant you something better, indefinite freedom from your marriage, from the home that was yours, and limited contact with your children. Perhaps you'll learn the value of what you destroyed." Vanessa left the courtroom pale and defeated. In the months that followed, she tried to rebuild her relationship with Jake and Mia, but it was like trying to glue back together a vase shattered into 1,000 pieces. Jake barely spoke to her, replied to texts with one-word answers, and never accepted her dinner invitations. Mia was kinder but distant, too polite, as if speaking to a stranger. Vanessa now lived in a small apartment across town, drove to work where everyone knew about the scandal, and came home alone every night. She lost friends, lost respect, lost her family. Blake Morrison sank as well. Unemployed, divorced, his reputation ruined, he eventually left Austin to start over somewhere else. His wife Sarah kept the house, the kids, and the dignity of having exposed the truth. Tyler, meanwhile, focused on being the best father he could be. He worked hard at the shop, which thrived even more. Customers admired how he handled everything without violence or public drama, simply seeking justice. He hired a therapist for Jake and Mia, helped them process their mother's betrayal, and taught them that mistakes have consequences but life goes on. 2 years later, Tyler was dating again. He met Rachel Kimball, a 41-year-old English teacher, at a mutual friend's birthday party. Rachel was also divorced, childless, and carried a comforting calm. She was patient with Jake and Mia, never tried to replace their mother, just showed up with kindness and consistency. Over time, the kids grew fond of her. Tyler started smiling again, genuinely. Jake graduated high school with honors, got accepted to a good university, and in his graduation speech, thanked only his father. Vanessa was there, sitting in the back, and heard the deafening silence where her name should have been. Mia, now 14, still saw her mother occasionally, but the closeness never returned. She was ashamed to tell her friends what her mom had done, and that built a wall between them. Vanessa kept working, kept living, but carried the weight of knowing she'd destroyed everything for the illusion of 7 days of freedom. She'd see Tyler from a distance sometimes, when picking up or dropping off the kids, and he looked well, happy, moving forward. She wasn't. On a Sunday afternoon 3 years after the divorce, Tyler was in his backyard with Jake visiting from college, Mia helping with the barbecue, and Rachel setting the table. They were laughing at something Jake said about an eccentric professor. Tyler looked around, at his healthy, whole kids despite everything, at Rachel smiling, at the life he'd rebuilt from the wreckage, and felt something he hadn't felt in years, peace. He didn't wish Vanessa harm, but he didn't miss her either. She was a closed chapter, a lesson learned about trust, character, and choices. That same Sunday, Vanessa sat alone in her small apartment, scrolling through old photos on her phone, Jake as a baby, Mia learning to walk, Tyler smiling on a beach 15 years ago. She tried to remember exactly why Blake Morrison had seemed like a good idea, why throwing away 18 years had felt worth a week of forbidden excitement, but she couldn't find the answer. What she found instead was regret, vast and cold, and the awareness that some decisions can't be undone. She'd planned a week of freedom and earned a lifetime of loneliness. The judge had been right, she'd learned the value of what she destroyed, but too late, when there was nothing left to save. Tyler moved on. Vanessa remained trapped in the past, haunted by a choice that, for one brief and insane moment, had seemed like a good idea. The freedom she'd so desperately wanted cost her everything that truly mattered, and that was a debt she'd pay for the rest of her life. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.